There's just 1 minute to showtime.
The engines are on.
The following program is brought to you in living color.
When they wrote up the systems and the rule set that we use, did working people get to write a line? What class of men on pen and paper jotted down their clues? With capital the heart of their design. When 90 million want a thing, but some shareholders say no. Which class of people get to have their way? The people read the fine print, say that this thing has got to go, and we'll start writing a new contract here today. Don't you know that hundreds will work and one man keeps the money? They don't think they gotta tell us why. When they say the new social contract, all the bosses will be gobsmacked and everyone will want a sign. Oh, yeah, everyone will want a sign.
Okay, what's going on with my boys and in some cases, gals? Hello, everybody. If you didn't need a reminder that we are in the stupidest timeline, there you have it. So
That's a really funny sentence.
Yes, that is maybe the most awkward way to address people. You get to very, very much the music band. What's going on, my fellow kids? Like
they were both in quotes. They were like gals and guys
right?
were both in quotes.
No, that might have been a smart ass move to like try to act about like different genderedness, but that would kind of give him a sense of I don't know, awareness. I
read that first sentence and I'm like, I know it's a big wall of a big state. I read nothing else. I just saw that first sentence.
Right? Yeah, it was just like, I don't have time for that. Free Palestine. So that's basically all it came down to. Yeah, so we are glad to have our own Mr. Mayor Jared back with us today for this week.
Hello, I am back for a single week. I'll be gone again.
Yes, and then gone again, Mr. International. So I'm gonna choke on my spit. But
it's kind of funny
Jared,
because in my travels it becomes I keep wanting to like there's things that I can't say out on the internet because it'll just make people fight and I don't really want that, but it's like here I'm criticized because like, Jared, you're this like secret right winger whose policies and ideas would be very harmful to various minority groups in the global south, et cetera, and then I meet various minority groups from the global south and they're like, yeah man, you're right, you get it. It's like
right?
the people
like
who
you're
agree with
literally
me
out
most.
there doing it.
I'm gonna go talk in Brazil
excellent.
with my random commie friends who are like, yeah, man, you're like the only American we know who seems to be like have some idea of what universe you're thinking in.
Right. And you have some new music out, do you not?
I do. If you guys want to go to whatever your favorite streaming service is, Spotify included, and type in Pepper Coyote, sounds exactly like spelled like it sounds. I have a song called I Hate It When You Talk Like that came out on July 4th. I'm like, every time I'm about to put out a thing, I'm like, is there a significant date within the next couple of weeks? Like, F it, let's do Independence Day. Because then I can remember when things came out. And it's a song about being nice to each other.
Climbing up the Spotify charts, so
make
sure to download your copy of the new music.
Spotify's
especially if you like our theme song. That's Jared's handiwork. What were you going to say?
Put that online. Spotify does they have the top 5 whenever you go to anyone's page, and that doesn't necessarily mean just the whole numbers top 5 most popular, but it's like if a new thing comes out and it's being listened to at a greater rate, then that ends up on the thing. And this is the first time I've put out I don't really put out singles, but it is on that little top 5 thing. It's like, oh, people are listening to this with enough frequency in the last couple of weeks that put it into contention.
Yeah, no, that's big news, dude. That's a big deal. So congratulations to our own Jared, and we will miss you next week, but we're glad that you're going to be spreading the gospel down south a ways. Shout out to the chat. Are you time traveler too? Hello back to you. Yeah, so if you were with me last week, then you got a nice rant at the end of the show where and we were talking about this a little bit before this episode, is people are starting to really kind of come together across party lines, if you will. And I won't, because I hate these stupid labels. If things are right, they're right. If things are wrong, they're
We're
wrong.
coming together along class lines,
There you
which
go.
is
There
the
you go.
important
That's
one.
yeah. That is much more apt.
And I see people running around going, "Get back in your boxes, everybody! You're supposed to stay over there, and you're supposed to stay over." Like,
Right.
I listened to literally. There's the one of the various George Carlin clips that go around. Not the "It's a big club and you're not in it" one, but it's the like, well, we have people are intentionally divided through all these various mechanisms to distract us from the fact that the richest people keep going to the bank. And I'm like, God, he was saying this in like 1997, and that's just where we are. We have not advanced politically since really like the 30s. You can look at old political cartoons, and it's not that like racism or various forms of bigotry, homophobia, sexism, etc. don't exist. It's just they are exacerbated and exaggerated and pushed at us and intentionally freaking exacerbated. I already said, I can't say created, but made much worse by the people who
Fanning
rule us.
the Richies are fanning the flames and making us, the poors, eat each other.
It's like the easiest thing ever. It's like if you want to get a bunch of 5-year-olds to do what you want, you might use like subterfuge tactics, and it's just been like the same techniques working for so long. And more people are like, man, this is all just a bunch of nonsense, and we're in danger of coming together in angry agreement. And the people who I am the most frustrated at are those who are yelling, no, get back in your pens. Don't you remember this embarrassing thing from 10 years ago? Don't you remember this embarrassing? You can never speak. You can never get along. You must all continue to be in red and blue shirts.
Yeah, and that's I definitely wanted you to get to comment on that, because I was pointing at the camera and yelling quite a bit, because it makes no sense to me. All this stupid infighting. That's why the left has no organization. There's no hierarchy. There's no like left union, and there ought to be. That's what we believe, right? Like, we believe in connecting and uniting and community and rebuilding community, yet nobody is willing to do it. And we've got no one out front really, except for just kind of a few people here and there, and they're not necessarily equipped to run, what could essentially become like a political movement. So that's, no, definitely talk to people. And that's what I said last week. You don't have to, which I've said before with you here, you don't have to agree on what your favorite pizza topping is or your favorite ice cream. Like, fine. Like, if you fundamentally agree on the tenets of communism, of socialism, which are essentially the same definition at this point, which change when people use them over the eras, because a lot of the time you get thrown at you from the right was, well, the Nazis were socialists. Okay. All right, whatever, dude. Like, why don't you just like try to like learn anything ever at all instead of just throwing buzzwords out there? So we're tired of the mess. That's essentially where we're coming from. So if you want to hear me yelling about it, you can go check out last week's episode. But that's essentially where we are. Additionally, we are seeing this Epstein saga continue and deepen. It's I think officially reached scandal. You can use the word scandal at this.
Well, it's really funny how now it's a scandal, right? Like, it wasn't a scandal the last time it came around when he was on trial.
Right. Yeah.
Epstein went on trial previously in Florida famously and was like acquitted of everything.
Yeah. So that's what we're kind of in the midst of that. And this is another maybe a good push point, because we are actually seeing, and it's a little bit difficult at this time to untangle whether some of this is like maybe fake accounts making these things up, or fake statements, or just the way the right does to the left may be doing to the right, or the center maybe they're doing their Dems, or whatever. But we're seeing a potential pushback from some of the MAGA people against the ties with Epstein, which apparently didn't matter before. And what seems really confusing about it is that, like, we on the left essentially accuse them of ignoring it on purpose. Yet maybe it was more to the point that they really were that naive to believe that all these pictures were just nonsense. Rich people take pictures together, whatever. Like, they really seem disheartened by the idea that Donald Trump is a pretty much open pedophile, open rapist. He said
you have
so.
That from the Democrats, because Noam Chomsky also has pictures with Jeffrey Epstein.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So there was always a window to go, well, this instead. Well, this, you could always point back at somebody else. And it is true. Wealthy people end up in these scenarios where they're at the same weddings, the same parties, the same fundraisers, and everybody just like, if you were on the street and you saw a celebrity you liked and you wanted a selfie and they gave you one, like if you, I hate to bring this up because I don't want there to be confusion, but there was a documentary about Subway Jared, and who was a pedophile and is in prison for it. But he got so popular so quickly that he had pictures with hundreds of like all of them. Posed for pictures. They were in commercials together. They did events together because he became that, and that was sort of the moreover the don't just elect people to celebrity status without like looking into them a little bit, because this guy was fucking egregious and like some of the worst shit that you could imagine came out of this man's mouth. But Subway Jared is in pictures with every celebrity that you can imagine. So yeah, there was always some argumentation there. There was always some argument about, well, these guys on the left were pictured with Jelaine, and yeah, because these people are all taking pictures together. But it seems like maybe some MAGA people are kind of reckoning now with it, and you're starting to see some people come forward and say they're sorry for voting for Trump, and it's like, too little, too late. You still did it. But yet again, what were your choices really? Like this fascist or that fascist? So we have that going on.
I wanted to I can jump into this article because I have two different ones. It's CNN and NPR, but I'm keeping in mind the whole what I was talking about. Everybody get back in your pens, and that's kind of the subtext that I'm reading for all of this. Because if you remember, the left, and when I'm saying the left through these conversations today, I'm talking about Democrats. I'm talking about what the mainstream political American definition of what our left is, which is the frickin' Democrats. And if you're mad about that, stop going through all these quote socialists who every 4 years, spend 3 years talking about how horrible and evil the Democrats are, and then every 4 years tell you that you're super Hitler if you don't vote for them. That is still supporting the Democrats. That's just what it is. If you're just really mad about having to support the Democrats and you still just keep freaking joining the uniparty, same exact thing for Republicans, by the way. Same exact thing for Republicans. If you just keep standing here and just freaking spinning your wheels, you just are a Democrat or a Republican, and that's why I say that the right is the Republicans, I guess, and the left is the Democrats. So if you're the left, the Democrats, you are supposed to say that there is no crazy right-wing. This is a crazy right-wing conspiracy theory about Jeffrey Epstein. It goes all the way back to frickin' Pizzagate and QAnon and shit. Like, that is all the same through line of a secret cabal of ultra-rich people are doing horrible things to children. Like, that's the through line, and it has jumped to, is it this? Is it them? Is it... Because sometimes it's the Clintons, and probably is sometimes the Clintons, because they're on that freaking list, too. Sometimes it's the Bushes. Sometimes it's the Trumps. Sometimes it's... Like, they're all kind of in on it, so you can't... So now that Trump is saying, no one pay attention to that Epstein stuff, now NPR and these other left outlets have to both make fun of him for that and be like, oh, you said this wasn't important, but it is, but while also not feeding into these things that they have previously said are crazy conspiracy theories of rich people somewhere doing things to children. You're a psycho. You're a QAnon if you say this. All right, so how are we going to toe that line here? Trump tells supporters not to, quote, waste time on the Epstein files. Because if there's one thing we can all agree, when he says no one cares about the Epstein files, holy shit is he wrong. Everybody cares about the right, left, center. They all care about the Epstein files because at the end of the day, is there actually a secret cabal of ultra-rich people doing... Okay, let's read some article. President Donald Trump, seen here in yellow... is facing backlash from his base after defending his administration's review of the so-called Epstein files. So the so-called Epstein files, downplaying his supporters' distrust in the process. Last week, a 2-page memo from the Justice Department and the FBI said they found no evidence that the disgraced financier and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein blackmailed powerful people or kept a client list, again in quotes, has to be in quotes, and reiterated that he died by suicide in his prison cell in 2019. But Epstein's death and imprisonment have been the subject of numerous conspiracy theories, including a prominent belief amplified by numerous right-wing figures who now serve in Trump's administration that the sex trafficker's death is proof, in part, that the government is run by shadowy figures to undermine Trump. Oh, it's not the belief that it's run by shadowy figures to undermine Trump specifically. that implies that this shit started in 2016.
Right. Yeah.
They are to undermine. They're the people who shot fucking Kennedy. They're there to undermine any act
People
of
are still doing
sovereignty
it.
that deviates even slightly from this straight ahead, all power to the banks plan that we've been running since the freaking, I don't know, 50s,
Yeah, at least
30s.
probably since the original Great Depression.
Yeah. You can argue it's in the end of gold. There's all these like jumping off points. Was it World War One? Was it when we went off the gold standard?
Right. Yeah. They all kind of filter into each other to get us to where we are
Because
now.
it all gets us to this.
Yeah.
The banks run absolutely everything, and that cannot be challenged or will kill you. You're not even. It's not even important enough that they kill people anymore. They were doing more of that in the 70s, I think. All right, those three of those administration officials, Pam Bondi, Attorney General, and person that MAGA super hates because she's a swamp person. FBI Director Kash Patel, now a swamp person. He's the guy with the really big eyes. You see where he looks like he's stunned looking into his thing
All the time, yeah. Like you just saw, like I don't know, like a two-headed cat or something. Like you just,
Yeah, he's very,
like the
just,
dumbest look
in
on
every
his face
picture he
all
looks
the
like
time.
that. Yeah, I think it's in his mind. He's like, like he's like looking tough. That's why his eyes are all open. I don't know. And,
Right?
and Deputy
I
Director
don't
of FBI
blink.
and Dan Bongino. So MAGA does not like Pam Bondi, but they like Kash Patel, and liked, I should say, past tense, those other two. They're like, oh, they're gonna go in the FBI and like reveal everything. We're getting these outsiders into the intelligence community,
Which
just
is
like
the same refrain everybody makes, no matter who's in charge, every single
the mayor
election.
Zohan is gonna change everything from the inside.
He's gonna do it. Yeah, no, it's exactly every presidential election. Like they're gonna do it. They're gonna do it. And that's not just internet talk. Like how many people just put your memory toque on for a minute and remember how many people, yeah, right? How many people when Biden went into office were just like, oh, he's gonna save us. Like
He's gonna get rid
in
of.
the grocery store would save that shit. And I'm like, where are you getting this shit from?
He didn't even fire the fucking postmaster, let alone anybody important.
Like a fucking layup. Like that was the easiest thing that he could have done to make people happy is like make the post office work a little bit better and fire the guy that fucked it up worse. Nope. That guy retired on his own.
It does technically work better in that now the post office is less in debt through. He has made it closer to profitable, which shouldn't be the goal, but that's a whole thing that freaking. But if you ask, like, look, he turned the whole post office around by making everything more expensive, and I'm like, yeah, I should have thought of that.
Right?
Should have given me $1 million.
Genius move there.
Raise prices on a thing that. What are you gonna do? Go to hell. UPS is 20 times as expensive.
Right.
All right. Talking about these three, then look, they posed. This is a famous picture of them posing with, quote, the Epstein files, phase 1. All these binders that we're pretty sure in other photos you can tell just have blank paper in them because they love doing that shit.
Yeah.
They love taking big stacks of blank paper.
And that is actually when some of their most vocal commentators and supporters started coming out saying that shit is empty.
Yeah.
So that's when this kind of started with the pushback.
Because they're like, the campaign was like, we're releasing them day 1 and all this. And then people are like, I don't think they're going to do it. And now today he's like, not today, this week, stop caring. He's like, okay, he's definitely not going to do it. And if you're actually a true believer of this shit and you care more about making America great again and maybe removing the cabal of super rich people who do all this, like, you care more about that principle than like pretending that somehow Trump is secretly still has this weird 9D chess plan to actually release the Epstein, or because you can either rationalize, which people on the left do constantly, like, well, you see, Biden, he had to do that because he's really trying to, like, always comes down to like 9D chess to freaking rationalize why they're doing the opposite of what you elected them to do. Mm-hmm. Bondi drew fire, Pam Bondi, for an interview earlier this year where she said Epstein's client list was sitting on my desk right now. I remember that. And then they had the Epstein phase 1 things that we just showed you that picture. Patel and Bogino, I know I've heard this. He's Italian. I think it's Bogino. Longtime critics of the agency, they lead, also received threats from far-right conservatives after a joint interview where they said Epstein's death was in fact a suicide. You know what? Good. You should be fucking furious at them. Somebody I respect they have a line they like to say now, which is like the most courageous thing you can do in America is to be a snitch. Be a snitch. You gotta be a Snowden. You gotta go be a freaking Assange. Like, what's the worst they're gonna do? Oh, you gotta go live in Moscow now because
yeah, right.
I don't know. Oh, I have to go live in China because like, guys, the most heroic people right now are those who are just willing to tell you the stuff that's actually going on. There are really no conspiracies. You just need somebody. Hey, man, you're in the FBI now. Get some files and frickin' put them on the internet. Do something. Instead, they're like currently like, we're gonna resign. It's like, well, resign and spill it.
Can't say things at the same time.
It's because they want their lobbyist job later. Or they want to go back on the news, or they want to be the anchor of some fucking podcast or whatever shit. They know they'll fall out of like the good boy circle where suddenly you're demonetized on everything. It's like, dude, you have enough money. If Kash Patel cannot fucking live his life without ever having to make another cent, God, he sucks with money. He's any of these people. You don't have to, oh no, I won't be able to go work. It's like, go fucking work at Burger King like the rest of us and be an American hero. Be a patriot. Do the thing you're supposed to do.
And then other people will end up sponsoring you or helping you or elevating you in some case. You just have to be willing to give up that bullshit identity that you've made up for yourself.
Goddamn, Assange had like fucking how many different groups and societies about freedom. Like, it started a whole thing.
Yeah,
and, you know, he only had to spend a full decade of his life sitting in a fucking prison cell, but...
Yeah, only that. But, yes.
He's a goddamn hero. Like, that's... Who are our heroes at this point? Them. Those kinds of people. Your Snowdens, your, frick, I can never remember her name. She went in as a guy, now she's a girl. Fucking, you know who I mean. She wore Chuck Taylors that are hearing, and it was great.
Yes, I do know who you mean, but I'm drawing a blank on her name.
It was along with Snowden, then she like went to jail for it, and then Obama let her out, and then Trump put her back in for like a month. Now she's back out again, and it's...
Yeah, no, I know who you mean, but I'm also drawing a blank. I don't know. We're not encyclopedias. Like, look it up.
I can look. It's because also it's two different names. I can't remember which is which. All right. Over the weekend, Trump posted a lengthy message on his Truth Social website that defended Bondi, told his supporters to not waste time and energy on Jeffrey Epstein, someone that nobody cares about. Very incorrect, man. And spread baseless conspiracies that the so-called files are created by Democrats to go after him. I don't think people freaking buy it. Like, oh yeah, what's going on with my boys and in some cases gals?
Why like, what the fuck are you even trying to say?
What is that sentence supposed to mean? Oh my god.
Yeah, exactly.
They're going after Pam Bondi, doing a fantastic job. Well, he hated her a few months ago. Like, this is why I mean people are threatening to come together. When he says no one cares about Epstein or who cares about Epstein, you got to realize freaking everyone does. It is the difference between at this point, we kind of all know that the Epstein shit is real, right? Like, all of America knows that there's something in there. We don't know exactly who. Why don't we just operate on the basis that that is true because we all know that it is? We know that there is a guy who has blackmail on basically every single... And the blackmail isn't necessarily the point. The blackmail is just a step along the way. Where is our entire government, or at least enough of it that is significant and paralyzed by this number of people, is a large percentage of our nationally elected government a bunch of blackmailed psychopaths that are only kept in place because they will vote yes on the military budget. Because if the Epstein shit is true, which we all know it is, there's your answer. That's the end of that math equation. We have a bunch of dudes who are the most, not even necessarily all dudes, people who are the most controllable. If you aren't controllable, you get swapped out, or you're one of the like 6, you're Rashida Tlaibs, the people who are like allowed
the controlled outliers.
Yeah. You're what's his freaking name? The Kentucky dude, I can't remember his name either. There's a couple who seem to be allowed to say the things to like keep the rest of us under control, because you know Rashida Tlaib is in a district that actually has some freaking revolutionary potential where it's not a voter base that goes along with the normal Democrat line, but then they get to go, look, we have Rashida and she's good, you'll vote for her, right? And then look, another district is Democrats. Like, once again, we've kept people inside of the fucking uniparty because, well, our representative is good and our guy does this. If all they are there to do is vote yes on the military budget, and if they try to go against it, they bring up their child rape tape that all of them have, I guess. Yeah. Maybe this whole thing is phony, and they have no rights to govern.
Exactly. That's exactly what's going on. And once again, we have to bring Tucker Carlson up on this show, which we do not want to do, because he actually vocally said this is what was going on. But I think that, you know, everybody that's really been paying attention, and not these people who are now suddenly surprised that this is real, you know, these MAGA people, these alleged MAGA people that are like, oh my goodness, you know, my stars, I could never have believed Trump, and then now it's true. But the people who have been paying attention, it's like, okay, what Epstein is not like, he was self-made billionaire anyways, but if you're at that level, you know, you are want more and more and more and more. You've seen how greedy these fuckers are. So it was never a secret. It was before any of this mattered or anybody even had heard his name. None of this like was a big secret that he was very much tied to Mossad, and which is like basically Israel's FBI, and the Israeli government for decades at this point. They were very tightly aligned, and money was flowing both ways because he was working for them using this destination to collect compromise on the world's most powerful people, because that is Mossad and is Israel's MO. And then you might ask yourself, why are these people bending the knee so much to Israel? They're just some dumb fart on the map. They don't mean anything. They're nothing. What is the point? Why is this whole Israel thing? Why have I never even heard of Israel before, except for like in Christmas songs? Now they're this huge thing, right? Like that is, these things tie together. And then what was the event? You mentioned it, but I can't remember. What was the event that Carlson was at?
He was at the Tea Party USA convention.
Yeah, it was like a Republican convention essentially.
It's different
not
from
the Republican convention, but a convention of Republicans.
If I'm not wrong, Turning Point USA, that's the Charlie Kirk thing, right? Where he would show up on college campuses way back in the day. I think it actually was OG Tea Party.
I have a hard time with that. I can't be bothered to know those kinds of things. But yeah, I mean, all those people are connected. But we keep bringing up Tucker Carlson against our will because he keeps saying the right thing. He's
the only independent journalist that's mainstream, I guess. There's
right.
a lot of no-name motherfuckers saying the same shit.
Yeah,
but,
of course.
Who gets international attention?
Yes, and he goes out there and he straight up says that, and it's like, yeah, that's like he announces this to the crowd, like giving a speech, and that's what he's talking about. He's like, hey guys, you know this, right? Like, this is true, right? Like Epstein was well connected, and that was his job, was to collect this blackmail type of stuff on the most power, not just Americans, but the most powerful people in the whole world. We're talking about aristocracy members and in Saudi Arabia and stuff, so that they could then use that as blackmail to either have their bidding done on the world stage, Israel, or to transactionally to gain wealth, power, money, favor.
I found possibly the funniest source to read about this story from, which is a website called Forward, which is Jewish independent nonprofit, all with periods after them. So you know where this is probably going. I wish they would place Jewish with Zionist, because we've had that conversation. Tucker Carlson calls for stripping citizenship from Americans who served in the Israeli army, and I'm over here like, I'm pretty sure if you served in the fucking Russian army, they'd have problems with you, but for some reason it's Israel, so it's fine. Carlson also accused Jeffrey Epstein of Mossad ties. Yes, that definitely not proven connection, and slammed deportations of pro-Palestinian activists. Well, hey, Tucker Carlson, looks like we found a point of agreement.
Right? Yeah, I know. And that's why this is like, we keep bringing him up and we don't want to be. He's got a history of being a total jerk off on the wrong side of things. And it's not even super clear because as an independent journalist, is he strategically doing this to kind of grow his audience, like fold in more people? Like,
I think he serves a CIA function. I think he honestly serves I don't think he's like, tearing down the state necessarily. I think this is like, all of this is still very much possible within. Oh yeah, he's what basically the mouthpiece the CIA uses to like put some shit out there.
Entirely
not in the form of lies, though. This might be what is called a limited hangout, where you let some of the stuff, you're just like, look, here it is, look at all this crazy shit. Well, to have them not look at a slightly more important thing. And we're almost approaching, or other people will say, no, we are at unlimited hangout. They just put everything in front of you. It doesn't even matter. Like, all the info is right there. Like, you're talking about this Mossad shit. It's just right there. You can just look at it. It's not a crazy secret or a conspiracy. You don't have to join a thing and put on a cult hood and like burn a thing in your head, or it's just information is just out there, and I'm pretty sure the intelligence community knows at this point that it doesn't matter. You can tell them everything we do. It's not gonna get everyone. Oh, everyone's in the streets now, ripping down Washington. Like, we know all the shit they did in the 70s.
It adds to the noise.
It's just there's so much noise.
Yeah, that is sort of the folly of living in the digital world. Is there is so much noise that even the more nefarious people rely on that, so that they are like, oh, well, they're not going to pay attention to this because I didn't say it, like they're going to listen to me. So it's just noise on noise on noise on noise. So people get overwhelmed. Our brains are not supposed to be this stimulated, guys. Like this is not supposed to work this way. That's why everybody is living in misery all the time.
So I'm going to read some of these, some of the hits here from this piece by Forward. But remember that very recently he did his the Ted Cruz interview that I played you a clip from with Tucker Carlson, Ted Cruz, where both of them, I didn't play that part of it, but both of them are on that same interview going like, well, I love Israel. Yeah, you love Israel. I love Israel. Yeah. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That was him talking to Steve Bannon. But they're like, we all love Israel. Yes, yes. We all agree Israel is the most important thing in the entire universe. And he said that like less than 2 weeks ago. And I believe that this does not necessarily contradict even that. That's what I'm saying is like, well, these aren't necessarily contradictory. Tucker Carlson, former Fox News host, leader in the Republican Party's isolationist wing, which is a really funny way to say anti-war. It's like they're trying really hard not to get us to come together. Said that Americans who previously served in the IDF should have their citizenship, their U.S. citizenship, revoked over concerns of dual loyalty. And you can still love Israel and say that. You're just like, no. If you're Israeli, you go to Israel, and if you're American, you're in America. You just keep them separate. Doesn't necessarily contradict any of these things. At the same time, he also criticized the Trump administration for trying to deport pro-Palestinian students who engaged in anti-Israel activity on campus. If you just acknowledge the First Amendment, none of these three things are contradictory. You can fully be like, yo, if you're an IDF foreign soldier, you should go be in that country. He didn't even say deported. He just said citizenship revoked. Basically, you got to pick. Are you a citizen of Israel or a citizen of America? And it's like, yeah, that doesn't even sound that crazy to me. I don't have dual fucking citizenship. I'm just here. I have no other boat I can jump off to if things go weird over here or over there. And First Amendment rights, you're allowed to protest. You're allowed to say hateful lies in a lot of cases, and that is First Amendment protected, let alone, just, hey, maybe we should stop shooting all those babies. There are a lot of Americans, this is quoting now, there are a lot of Americans who've served in the IDF, and they should lose their citizenship, Carlson said in a 45-minute speech in Tampa. All right. Yeah, Turning Point USA Student Action Summit in Tampa, Florida. You can't fight for another country and remain an American, period. And I'm like, that is a very normal sentence. Completely agree.
It is, honestly. Like, it really is. I mean, unless it's like one of our, dyed-in-the-wall allies like Canada or, the UK or Australia or something, in which case our militaries have always worked together.
You got to come up with, I think Nicolette just went out, or me. We'll find out.
Oh, did I?
Oh, you might be back.
Oh, okay. Maybe. Okay. I can hear you.
He mocked his... Okay, I'm just keep going. Carlson, who has promoted anti-Semitic tropes, like what does that even mean anymore? Been associated with white nationalists. What does that even mean? They say that I'm associated with white nationalists at this point. It's just fucking noise. Explained that his position is a, quote, obvious recognition of the truth. And it applies to all countries. Damn, man, you're fucking right with me here. Forward, thank you. I'm glad you agree. He mocked his critics. They just write you off as some sort of internet freak, hater, Nazi. And said that it is fair to demand that the people running my country love it every bit as much as I do. His big criticism for Ted Cruz is like, dude, all of your last priority seems to be America. You don't even... He was making fun of how much money did you send to Ukraine? You don't even know. And Ted Cruz did not go, well, actually, it was this much. Like, he doesn't. He has no fucking idea. It's not his job to care about that. He is one of these weird... he might have an Epstein tape. He might not. He might just be, like I was saying before, he's at level, 7 rich, and he wants to get to level 8 rich, which is where Carlson is. Like,
yeah, right.
He's not, he wants to, if he wants to send his kids to the absolute best school in Texas, he has to keep his position within this thing. So he is effectively just another guy who is kept in place permanently forever, as long as he keeps voting for the military budget. And Ted Cruz also seems to be like this weird whipping boy where they send him out to do these like fucking humiliation rituals where it's like, go do an interview with Carlson. It'll go great.
Yeah, it'll go great for you. And he's out there like, burn me with another cigarette. I love it. Yeah. It's almost fetishized with him at this point about taking the heat for everybody.
He just smiles and takes it. They put him on the freaking phone with people. They call him an asshole to his face. Anyway, yeah, Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk is also not down. He's pretty pro-Israel. I don't know if those moves... I can't believe he didn't get pulled off the stage at Turning Point USA. That's why this is remarkable. Turning Point USA is a pretty Zionist organization. Like, that's not their whole purpose, but they are pro-Israel, to say the least. In a Q&A session after his remarks, I wanted to hear more quotes from the speech. Come on, Forward. He's 45 minutes. That's all he said. Carlson also appeared to agree with an audience member that the Trump administration's crackdown and deportation of pro-Palestinian students who engage in blah, 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 is totally outrageous. And I agree. It is outrageous. Everyone go back in your boxes where you're supposed to be mad about not deporting people for First Amendment shit.
Right.
You got 65 million people here illegally, according to the administration, and the only ones who are deported are ones who criticize a foreign country. Carlson falsely claimed. All right. Well, it seems that, like, I also think that if you're going to be deporting anybody, man, we sure are choosing some weird targets. It's like, let's go deport this mom. Let's go deport this naturalized citizen.
Yeah. And you're going to hear from us repeatedly that, like, okay, yeah, like, the reason everybody is so angry about it now is because it's so violent out in the open with this ICE nonsense. It's not anything that hasn't been being done all the time forever.
It's Trump trying to be like, look, I'm really doing it. So here's all this crazy video footage of freaking raids. When in reality, the previous administration deported more people. And you actually get more people deported if you're quiet about it.
Yes. That's actually completely true. Like, you know, like, just take the whole concentration camps on the border situation where you had
built by
AOC
Obama
standing there fake crying about it. And then suddenly she's like, oh, actually, they're probably like a really good thing, guys.
Well, what else are you gonna do? Are you gonna put them? You have to have somewhere to put them. These are the most humane detention facilities ever. Much better than Obama built the concentration camps. Bush used them, but no one gets mad until Trump uses them, and now suddenly they're a big deal. Then Biden has to use them again, so we got to forget about that. And
it's because of the branding. You know, Trump is all about creating brands, creating attention. He's a showman, you know, like a carnival barker, in the way that the other guys never really were, because they were totally like they're going stealth mode about it, which allowed their people to go to brunch and didn't have to think about kids in concentration camps or when they were separating families, that the children are literally getting sold to white families. That's how that like actually works. The government makes money selling migrant children, if you didn't know. So
man,
this is part of a money-making scheme, and then you get all this nonsense going on now. And then that's why all these spokespeople are saying all this dumb shit about like tying Medicaid and Medicare into it. And, oh yeah, there's all these able-bodied people. They can go work in the fields. Get fucking real. Even they know that shit is not true, but they want you to think that it's true. And then again, that just contributes to the noise. What is real? What is fake? What is happening? What is not happening? What will happen? What will get challenged in court? And so on and so forth. There's just every voice in the pile.
The question that never gets asked on this immigration issue, you can only ever bring up the immigration topics in ways that are like this, like good v evil, and always focused on the immigrants themselves, as opposed to how come Trump is not busting companies that employ illegal labor and illegally pay them less?
Yes.
Why is no one going door to door saying, all right, you got to show us your fucking doc, like not the people, you, the company, prove that you can actually legally employ the people who work for you. And if you can't, there are consequences. It is kind of asinine to be chasing single motherfucker. I've said motherfucker like 90 times today. That's just become my vernacular today.
It's the way it is. We're past the point.
If you're chasing a freaking field worker through the woods to catch like one guy, it's like, or freaking showing up at people's who are showing up to hearings, like that's showy, and it's kind of, mean in a way that is shocking to the conscious. But if you actually are a bloodthirsty, you're like, yeah, like it does the movie. You get the movie scenes, the dramatic shit. But like, I want to see people. Why don't you send these ICE agents into Tyson Chicken? One thing that is absolutely suppressing the wages of Americans is that a certain number of basically slaves are allowed into the country, and they all get trafficked in one way or another. They're either trafficked in the way that you're describing, where they're just literally freaking selling minors to other people, or you're trafficked into a job that you cannot leave voluntarily, or they'll keep your passport, or if you just describe the conditions that are slavery, you will be describing a modern American illegal immigrant labor. It's not the blame is not on the person. The person whose fault it is not the guy sitting in Guatemala who got a flyer that said, "Come to America, we have infinite jobs and money," and then goes and then ends up working freaking picking whatever for 7 cents an hour. Like, That's not that guy's fault. Why aren't we going after the person who's paying people 7 cents an hour?
Yes.
In that same call you were talking about, I think, where they're going through like, oh, we need American workers to do these American jobs. And there was a guy who was saying like, I pay my blah, 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 a good $11 a day. $11 a day. Yes, this is totally not about wages or anything. This is just about racism.
Right.
They just do it because racist, not because they can pay a guy $11 a day to do a job that's supposed to be probably $11 an hour.
Right.
If your industry collapses without slave labor, you don't deserve to have an industry.
Yeah, that's correct. That's absolutely correct. And that's exactly what I was going to say, was that this is all about control of other disenfranchised people, whether you want to put the racist brand on it or not, which you absolutely can. This is about having a network of people under the control of other people vis-a-vis slavery. And whether it comes in the form of prisons or these work camps, these concentration camps that are going up, and we're seeing,
prison itself is freaking slavery.
Yeah, and we're seeing the exact same behavior as we did before in the last Trump's presidency, where we just recently saw a bunch of Democratic representatives and people standing outside of the alligator Alcatraz.
Oh yeah.
Which again, more branding and doing the AOC shtick, where like they're this and they're crammed in there and they're drinking toilet water, and then it's like they don't give a fuck. These people don't care.
I hope you're all excited for President Buttigieg to expand Alligator Alcatraz when it will be renamed as, I don't know, Crocodile Country Club or some shit.
Yeah, like the Learning Education Center for
No, I'm keeping Crocodile Country Club. Crocodile Country Club is funny.
There it is.
And it's alliteration, damn it.
And sorry, that's exactly what is going on. It's all about branding, and because Trump is willing to lean into it, they started selling merchandise with that alligator.
And it's like AI art too, which is even funny. They couldn't get their own.
You could buy hats. There were their idiot MAGAs posing underneath the sign. Like, what do you expect? This is a man who is, like, in his own way, an expert at making money off of junk and crap and lies.
More people are hopefully seeing that all he has for you are memes. He can post memes, but he is not delivering on the promises that he was elected for.
Right.
End the wars, release the Epstein files is a thing he chose to campaign on. Things like that. And now you have Tucker Carlson. It's extremely obvious to anyone who watches that this guy had direct connections to a foreign government, meaning Epstein to a foreign government. Carlson said, no one is allowed to say that foreign government is Israel because we have been somehow cowed into thinking that that's naughty. There is nothing wrong with saying that. There is nothing hateful about saying that. There is nothing anti-Semitic about saying that. There is nothing even anti-Israel about saying that. You see, he is not even anti-Israel. He just is acknowledging reality, and that draws people to, like, anybody who's out there saying the truth in a world of bullshitters, you're going to attract a lot of people. That's why people still listen to Tucker, and they would not have listened to him if he was still his weird bow tie, Fox News, repeat the state narrative thing. If he was still basically young.
We would absolutely not have brought him up as many times as we have on this show.
I don't bring up fucking Bill O'Reilly, do I?
Right, exactly, right? Like, that's the point. Like, and that's another thing too, is like we've talked about things that Marjorie Taylor Greene has said. We don't want to do that, but like they end up coming
lowering the bar, everyone.
Right? Yeah, that's them doing this kind of shit. That's them causing us to have to agree with people that we fundamentally disagree with on everything, essentially.
It's a Frederick Douglass quote. It's, I will unite with no one to do evil and anyone to do good. It's about accomplishing a goal. Team up, get the win, and then you can break up again. You don't have to stay fucking married. Get the revolution done, and then after that, we can all piss ourselves about whatever. All right. I want to do a little. Oh no, was that the end of it? That's it. Come on, man. That's all you gave me. I wanted more anger over these true state. Like, it just ends with him doing a quote, as if you're supposed to read that paragraph and be like, "Oh my God, he's a dangerous psychopath saying horrible lies," and it's like, no, everything in that is correct.
And it's also going to, like it said falsely says. It's like, so it's using negative to try to cast an aspersion on him anyways, to say that, like, oh, he's lying. Because
they don't ever say he's lying in this. They just do it, and you're supposed to go, wow, that's so ridiculous. They never actually come out and say, I guess they say falsely for like one of these, but they just put the quote in, and you're supposed to fill in the blank because you're a reader of forward.com.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like, you assume if they're covering it, and then you again are a subscriber or a reader, that you are the one that is
Their newsletter is called Anti-Semitism Decoded.
Oh God.
Here, let me decode it for you. You've told everyone for years that Jewish and Israeli or Israel government is the exact same thing, and that if you don't support the Israel government's actions, you hate Jewish people, and all the Israel government ever does that we hear about is sadistically torture and murder children and innocent people. I always say children, but like I hate when innocent grown men are tortured, grown women also,
Right.
but children is like the shorthand for innocent. And the
Yes.
fact that more than half of the people they kill are children is why it keeps freaking coming up.
Yes.
But,
It's it is.
anti-Semitic.
It's the shorthand for the atrocities.
Yeah.
TM.
Nobody's like, oh, you should have killed that baby, except the IDF, which says, yeah, we had to kill that baby because the terrorists just strap 50 babies to themselves and go running out. I guess. Meanwhile,
It's
Israel
ridiculous.
itself puts its fucking bases under hospitals. The thing that they say. All right.
Every accusation is a confession when it comes
There's
to
one finger pointing at you. There's 3 fingers pointing back.
Yeah,
at you.
you're right. It's absolutely true because anytime that they, and it took people a while to realize this, and now we are seeing some pushback on the right. I don't think it's very strong pushback necessarily, but again, we are starting to see a schism sort
I
of.
want to encourage it. It's
Yeah.
the only way we win.
We're seeing this schism kind of arise between MAGA, people who really identify as MAGA, just like regular people, and I guess some politicians too, and Trump, because you always had that never Trump faction of Republicans, but mostly they supported him and mostly he was their champion. But now with this Epstein stuff, just that it just won't go away and that it's deepening and deepening and he's making it worse. He's definitely stepped in a pile of shit on this one because he is making it way, way worse and drawing way more attention to it when, like whenever there was anything going on, like when Obama, was droning people to death right and left at weddings and shit like that. Like he was just like, don't worry about it. And nobody did, because they just he was so chill about it or whatever, and he would just move on to something. When Sandy Hook happened, he went out and he gave a speech. He cried a little bit, and people were like, "Oh my God, he's so sympathetic." Nothing fucking changed. There was no change to any of that shit. Like a bunch of kids, little kindergartners, got slaughtered, and it was just another Tuesday. So there's a big.
I was gonna bring up the Texas flood because it's like, well, it's gonna fucking.
Well, yeah, and then that was sort of where I was going with this. Is like, hey, do you guys remember climate change? Like nobody's talking about it anymore. Like it was some sort of DEI thing or something. It's just out the fucking window at this point. But half the country is under fucking raging water right now. The Northeast just got it. Pennsylvania is. Did you see about that? Pennsylvania.
Oh, geez, I just exited Pennsylvania. What?
Yeah, it's in the southern. Some of the southern counties are.
Oh, thank
are
God.
having flash flooding.
I was in the Northwest.
Is that me?
Philadelphia, you can
Ugh.
drown. That's not true. I'm not being silly. I don't hate you, Philadelphia.
Whatever. Yeah, no. So New Jersey is under. There's flash flooding happening.
Oh,
in New
yeah.
Jersey.
Okay,
And-
sorry. I saw things of like New York City subway with water. I'm like, oh, that must be from last year. No, that's
no,
again.
yeah, I was
It's
seeing people post it. I'm like, this is now? This is today?
it's- again, yep.
Yeah,
the
so-
biggest city in the entire country. You know what I didn't see in Shanghai? That.
Yeah,
Nothing
right?
flooded. There was no shit water coming up on the fucking subway. And that's a region on a delta. It's basically New Orleans. Like, it is a very famously floody area. And what did China do? They built the frickin' Three Gorges Dam that psycho Americans will meme about blowing up to kill a bunch of Chinese people. That's a meme I didn't expect to see many, many times. But if I see a picture of the frickin' Three Gorges Dam, I'm like, oh, a Nazi is talking. I understand. I see what's happening.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's telling us, no, this is normal and this is okay. We got a
To
question.
fantasize about killing hundreds of millions of people.
Yeah, like that. Well, it's just eugenics by a different name. People don't really know that term, but so many people still abide by that. If you don't think so,
I see the same chat you're about to mention. You've got Nathan
yeah, I
Coyote.
was. I was going to mention, first of all, I was going to say, if you don't think the eugenics movement is alive and well by a different name, just talk to the families of disabled people. They're ready to fucking put euthanize them on the spot because they're an inconvenience. So, but yes, we got a good question in the chat, which was Nathan Coyote, who says, why do people still fall for this bullshit? The only path forward is to teach the next generation not to fall into the duopoly. And yes, thank you for your question. That is true.
I talk about.
And that is the question, because there is this weird aura of obedience that sort of we were famous in America for having this Wild West attitude, right? Like we're Americans. We were boots and hats. We tame the earth. We kick the people out. We genocide like motherfuckers. We're out here doing it. We do the thing. You don't tell us what to do. We tell you what to do. Suck it. We have that attitude with, that's the American attitude, right? And most of that is marketing that has ever happened to us. However, I think to answer your question, Nathan, is that or I think it was kind of rhetorical. What you're saying here is like, because it just doesn't make sense. Is while we're saying that, it's like having like a big mouth and all hat and no cattle. I think a lot of people would say like you got a big mouth on you, but you're not willing to back it up because I gotta go to work. I gotta do what I'm told. Like I don't want to get in trouble. Can't get in trouble. Can't cause problems. Like and people and like a lot of it also is not malicious. I made it sound malicious, but there is malice there behind it. Like, people that are forcing this on to further generations. You have to behave this way. And you have to do what the government says. And you have to respect people you don't respect because they're older than you and such and such. And those lessons are kind of going out the door at this point because it's gotten everybody exactly nowhere. But for the most part, and I bring this up all the time, there was a documentary made about women in prison in the 70s. We talk about it constantly, and they were in a kind of transitional prison, not like hardcore prison. But there was a woman who says, like I had bills to pay, I had children to take care of. I did not care if Nixon was fucking up. It didn't make any difference to me whatsoever. And that is generationally gone on and on and on and on. And that puts us exactly where we are, why we are here, because they put us in situations where education becomes premiums. People at this point can barely even read to a 6th grade level on the whole, the Americans. And that is done so that they can't compete on the world stage, that they can't argue with authority, that they can't get these really good high-level jobs because those go to nepotistic hiring a lot of the time. So it keeps people disadvantaged and working. And then you get these inflation levels that are completely within the control of the government, having nothing done about them whatsoever. So we're put in these very negative situations, and that perseverance spirit of America, fuck yeah, that spirit that we're supposed to have and we're supposed to be known it turns into stubbornness and the need to survive. And channeling all of that in is like, yeah, I'm being perseverant, I'm surviving, I'm making it, but all you're doing is barely surviving. And more often people are not. So it is we are marginalized by our government on purpose. And you can see that by the way that Democrats and Republicans, but like the Democratic governor, I can't remember where, I just barely saw the story like yesterday, but when we have the ballot initiatives on voting, do we allow marijuana in the state for sale? Do we raise the minimum wage? Do we this, that, the other? And overwhelmingly, when people are asked these kinds of questions, they favor them. They want these things. They want higher, they want access to education. They want access to babysitting. They want access to food. They want access to shelter, so on and so forth. But then that whoever the official is will veto that or say like, we're not going to do that, or that's never going to happen in direct defiance of the will of the people.
Yes.
So
I point that out because in general, a lot of people think, and I don't blame them, but it's like, oh, people are just so awful that that's why things can't change. It's like, we aren't even actually that awful. That's mostly hype. We aren't actually the most horrible. Because whenever shit does go down in America, you see just as many like heartwarming things of like, this community came together and cleared the wreckage and got this guy out of a barn, went into the river and saved this barn. Like, we aren't actually, we only give a shit about ourselves, hyper individuals. Well, like when things actually come down to it, the only advice I get asked all the time where we'll talk, if I'm talking to someone, I'll bring up various points. They're like, well, we should just vote for blah. I'm like, well, here's all the reasons that can't work. So, well, we should just do this. I'm like, well, here's the reasons that can't work. And it eventually ends up at, well, if you're so smart, what should we be doing then? Because that's another thing as Americans, we want an actionable solution so we can go do something about it. Which is the thing I actually like. I very much like about Americans. I like about our country is that we're kind of goal-oriented. But it's like, well, the things to do right now are increase your number of social connections and wait. You're waiting because at this point, kind of like you're talking about, we're sufficiently hypnotized and distracted by the various spectacles, entertainments, movies. Remember, movies kind of died for a second. They're coming back though. We all like Superman now, even though James Gunn's previous movie was about a bunch of criminals going into a foreign country and taking out their anti-American leader. Anyway, yeah, he's super
Yeah,
great though.
anyway.
He has the best politics in the world and totally love. But there will come a point when reality intrudes upon the permanent distraction to a point that it can no longer. It's just not. Entertainment isn't entertaining anymore, and we are forced to confront reality, and then things can change. The most basic first step one can take is to get out of the game of the duopoly. If you don't like the king, you got to stop convincing yourself that, well, if we just get this advisor to the king appointed, then things will change. If it worked, it would have worked. Democrats as a party have been trying to do this for well over 100 years, and at this point I think it is acceptable to demand results. This is a put up or shut up time, and it has been for many decades.
Yes.
I've called it for myself. Hopefully many more people will call it, and we can have elections with like 5% turnout. That'd be something. Because they keep doing this shit because they say, well, you voted for it when no one actually votes. And the people you're talking about that I didn't care about Nixon fucking up, that's who I'm actually trying to talk to. If you're a hardcore, fully brainwashed Democrat, whatever, like I'll cut my losses. I'd rather talk to a rando who's just like, this all seems dumb. Also, they seem like a bunch of child rapists. I'm like, you're probably right. Let's...
You're correct.
That's what we all agree on. We all know in the back of our heads.
Yeah, there are union points here that we can work together on. And also, I think further to Nathan's question is that when we're put into these desperate situations, it really does turn us into animals. People act the worst. Take a Walking Dead example, right? Like you act.
That's what the
even
social connections are about.
That's an extreme example, but it's like when we're put in these dire situations. Yes, we become individualistic because you have to pay your bills or you don't survive. You have to be able to navigate these horrible conditions or you don't survive. So when we're put into survival, situations, maybe not everybody is acting their best, at the moment, and we're stressed and we're tired and we're scared and we're angry. And then that is literally like the fear machine. That is what the government has realized that they can bank upon and use, because they use the fear of homelessness. They use the fear of foodlessness. They use the fear of having your kids taken away because you can't support them.
And the only way to counter that shit is to have a support network. If you have more, that's why I talk about social connections, because things are going to get worse. And having people around you, at the very least, if you can get at least your direct neighbors, because when things get horrible, the only people who will be there to help you are your direct local, usually, unless you can drive to whoever, local social connections. Yeah. Without that, they want you to think it's just you versus the world.
That's something that the internet has been really good for, is to connect people outside of your physical location, because I think a lot of people find themselves in scenarios where they're surrounded by, you're the lone leftist in the sea of red, right? Like, and these people around you are literally insane. They're like, no, don't just round up the immigrants, murder them. And it's like, how am I supposed to fucking talk to you about anything? Like, okay, have a nice day then, bye. Right? Like, so like, and I'm hardcore into that. Like in that, there's nobody around they're either gonna be like, in my physical location, it's either that kind of attitude, like, oh, the immigrants who are taking all the food stamps, we need to starve them publicly. And it's like, this is actually coming out of your human mouth right now. And then the alternative to that is, oh, the Democrats, they're gonna save us. They're gonna save us so many, and then we're gonna be living in utopia. And it's like, what the fucking what? Like,
it's two reactions to the exact same. Like, it's a Coke Pepsi. It's not even. I don't even think people have that much freaking bloodthirst in their heart. But if you have the thing pushed at you, you can become an anti-fan where you want the opposite of that. If you think that, quote, like DEI, if aggressive niceness is being pushed and forced upon you, you're gonna be like, well, I'm gonna do aggressive cruelty. Haha, I will do the exact opposite of the thing. Yeah. It's like hating the Backstreet Boys so much you get into death metal. It's like, well, that doesn't really change the Backstreet Boys, but
yeah, they're still gonna be there. No, yeah, it is. It's
an anti-market.
And I think that's a good thing, that that amidst all of the noise,
How about instead we build this hospital, man?
Right.
Hopefully, like, hey,
the
you're right.
noise. Like that's where community comes together. Like a fundraiser for a hospital. We know all these rural hospitals are closing down, but again, that also puts the onus on you. Kind of have to decide what you want here. Do you want this unfunctional, corrupt government to change its ways, and you think you could do that? Okay. If that's
Where
if you think you
hundreds of
can.
years of history have failed and proven this impossible.
Yeah, and not just in America, but like everywhere.
Except
Or
Mexico.
are you the
Mexico
person
did it.
who says this isn't going to work anymore, and even though they have relinquished responsibility of this rural hospital, as an example, they're not going to give us any more money to run it, but we need it. Now we have to figure out how to make that work, right? So, and we're kind of in that other camp of like, no, it is their responsibility to be running things, and they're literally robbing the coffins here. But they're my words in the right order. But they're
robbing the coffins?
Coffers, not coffins, coffers. Robbing both. But my point is, it's like you can't ever trust them to do the right thing, and even if doing the wrong thing is putting it in a burden on you as a community, as a person, eventually you're gonna have to do something that's going to spite that behavior, because what they have done is rig the system in a way that it's like they never have to actually listen to you. They will go into direct defiance of you, of what you want, all of you, all the constituents. And it's like, okay, so if you had a ballot initiative and you wanted to raise the minimum wage in your town, and you don't know who else voted for that, but you know the majority of you did, so that means reds and blues voted to agree to that. You agreed on that point, yet whoever's in charge decided that they're not going to make that happen, right? So, okay, that means you're united. You're united in something.
Everybody in Florida should have flipped the fuck out, because Florida's ballot initiatives require a 60% margin of victory. Because everywhere there's a block in your way, if you're trying to do good stuff, there will be a fucking trap card that comes out of the system you've never even considered.
Right, the parliamentarian.
Surprise, parliamentarian. Oh, your state Supreme Court.
Or somebody will go on crying on the floor and do a no vote, right? So because I got told what? Because this is not a functioning system. This is a system of robber barons to serve
the
other
Epstein
robber
shit
barons.
is relevant because if we all accept the truth that we all know in the back of our heads, it's that most of your government, at least the people in significant places of power, are kept there permanently because they vote yes on the wars and banker shit. And
Yes.
Wars are banker shit. And this is just today. Guess what? What does this provide evidence for? The thing I just said. Even the guy who campaigns on I will end the forever wars, guess what? You actually didn't vote to end the forever wars. You voted to continue funding them.
Yep.
Because our government is mostly a bunch of people kept in place permanently just to vote yes on the military budget. That's their only reason for existing, is to vote yes on the military budget. Oh, yeah. Look, not our war. Trump's NATO weapons deal for Ukraine sparks MAGA anger. Some conservative members of Donald Trump's MAGA movement have conservative members? Oh, right. So wait a second. You see how I say all these words mean fucking nothing? You're now conservative to not go to war. To be against sending weapons to some shit across the frickin' globe instead of sending money to, your downtown or whatever.
Yes.
Now you're conservative for that. All right? On Monday, Trump said he would send... On Monday, Trump said he would send weapons to Ukraine via NATO. When it said via NATO, I'm like, what app is that? Oh, he'll send them via Discord. He'll be sending, all right, via NATO, while also threatening Russia with more tariffs if a deal to end the war is not reached in 50 days. Republican Congressman Marjorie Taylor Greene, again, people who we should not be forced to mention positively, a key Trump ally and former Trump strategist Steve Bannon are among those who have criticized the decision, with Bannon telling his podcast listeners that Ukraine is a European war. I don't even try to, people will be like, oh, Jared, you want Russia to win. It's like, I don't care what the fuck happens in Ukraine and Russia. I don't care what the fuck happens in Israel and Palestine. I mean, I do in my heart of hearts, but
politically.
stop involving me in that. She's like, do I have a Ukrainian passport? Do I have a fucking Palestinian passport? No, I'm sitting here in Arizona wondering why people have to sleep on the street, where we apparently have enough money to be funding entirely separate wars that just around the world that have nothing to do with me. We have
It's a
so
matter
much
of
money, we're
perspective.
blowing it.
And right, well, it's so easy to get upset about this stuff because that's what we're that is the heart of what we're always getting at, is like, this doesn't work, this system doesn't work, they're just making our lives unnecessarily hard. And it's not, like, that's why we're always using China as a model. It's like, well, yeah, it's not like beer and Skittles in China at every single moment, but it is compared to living here.
Maybe they don't spend all their money on bombing random fuckers around the world so they can afford to make a subway that doesn't flood.
Yeah, right. And like that is what you get when you call it whatever you want to. And that's again why we're so against labeling things, because like, oh, you're conservative now for not wanting war. Okay, I'm conservative then, whatever. It means nothing. So like, yeah, when you invest in your people, you get nice things. When you don't, you get what we have.
They're pushing this isolationist. I'm seeing isolationist, and like this is my third source in a row today that all are using isolationist member of Congress. Like, guys, at this point, being an isolationist in this case is being literally America first, meaning have America be considered on our list of priorities as the top, as opposed to, for some reason, Ukraine and Israel, and then U.S. There's other stuff on the list, I guess, but like, I do not understand how one can call themselves America first and be okay with this.
But
this
also,
is like,
how is that an extreme position to want not homeless?
I ask my very democratic parents that, like, they're not quite blue MAGA, but he's like, actually my dad has been like, this is driving me a little crazy. I got to stop looking at this. I'm getting way too freaking high strung about some of these stories. When I put to them, do you guys give a shit about Ukraine? They're just like, no. Why?
No.
Why? Like, which is different from saying I want everyone in XY country to die. Because, like, well, if we stopped sending weapons, that war would end in about 2 seconds, and then no one would be dying because there wouldn't be a war. If we stopped sending weapons to Israel, that war would be done in about a weekend, and then people would have to make some deals, and it would just stop. So it's not even doing nothing is the progressive position in this case. It is not our business. We need to deal with our own problems for quite a while. We got to spend a couple decades just building ourselves back up, because we really have not built this country at all since Nixon.
Yeah, basically. That's why everything is complete disrepair. And the war takes things a step further, because then ultimately we go and hollow out a place like Ukraine, and then they have no leg to stand on anymore. So then that means that, like, we have to make a mineral rights deal with us, which is what happened. And
look at freaking Yugoslavia, like former Yugoslavia,
yeah.
such poverty over the last, like, since the 80s when we showed up and helped.
Yeah, helped, exactly. We spread democracy, and that's exactly the point. Like, we find some sort of vulnerable country. We, as the United States government, not as the citizens, we don't have any say in it, and that's the problem. We go and the government goes and finds one of these vulnerable countries, pumps them full of lead to fight across their border on something they could never win against ever. I mean, Ukraine against Russia, give me a fucking break. So, and then they hollow them out. Everybody's dead. We bought all of their exports at that point, all of their grain, and then let's make a mineral rights deal. And we don't give a fuck what happens to them after that point. So that is part of the war machine. That is the ultimate goal. Like, we fought all the war, they made all the money. Now here's the next level of money, and we got you. And that is how the American government has ensnared all of these other countries around the world.
Expansion of markets. Like, you need somewhere for your capital to go. We have so much excess capital. We have nothing to frickin' do with it, and that's why we do wars. We cannot afford to spend that capital internally, because that would, like, mess up the whole frickin' finance bank nonsense. I think it was Michael Hudson saying, Michael Hudson, my favorite god, was I trust him when he says this. He said that 80% of bank loans, like new bank loans in America, are for real estate. It's just all for real estate. It's supposed to be for industry, or like, that's when I say that the banks control everything. They do. They control the flow of capital. They decide whether or not you get your loan. And if you come and like, I want to build a freaking coal mine, they say, I don't know if you do a coal mine, but if I want to build some industry, a factory, whatever, they're less likely to give you that loan. That's 20% of the loans they're giving out. But if you're like, I want to buy a lot and develop it and then have it sit empty and say for lease on it for 9 years and then fall over, like that, they'll loan all day, man. They will they write those loans. And a lot of it is stuff that never even gets built. You look at what we did in Afghanistan. It was basically a gigantic real estate scam where we said we were buying and building all these things. And then you look, nothing even got built. But the banks were happy to start freaking sending out this money, which is also how money is generated. They're not taking money from a thing they earned and then giving it to this, like it works in your like economics textbooks, like you're taught in freaking third grade how the world works. The bank invents that money. It just says, you know what? Here's $1 million. We just made it up. And they'll say, oh, well, it's based on our other real estate holdings. And then based on that money we made up, we're going to make up even more money. It's not a tenable situation. And we have entered a realm that has literally never happened, where we have such an insane amount of fake capital, whatever, just floating around the world that we don't really know how it ends. People talk about the collapse of Rome. It's like, well, Rome had like money based on gold and
actual physical. Yeah, they were still essentially on a gold standard. You know,
there were limits to how much the bank could just decide exists of currency, because you had to have a freaking coin that you'd print, etc.
Yeah.
But even then, you can argue that Rome fell apart because the finance class of Rome got too much power, and then they had a slave rebellion that they couldn't come back from.
And you also
Spartacus.
have, you know, if people are, I'm not advocating for it, but people are like, oh, Bitcoin and crypto are scams. Yeah, but they're just the new expression of what's been going on since we went off the gold standard.
It's somewhere
like,
to try and dump capital. You need shit to buy, so they make up shit. Bitcoin, buy it. Ugh.
Yeah, it's the same. Like, it's okay. So now that it's got a new dumb name, like it's not what imaginary money like we've been operating on for the past 50 years. So, you know.
They'll make you loans for imaginary real estate. They'll certainly make you imaginary money loans.
Yes. Yeah, so that's where we are for this horrible week.
Sorry, I still got the freaking NATO merger up there. But yeah, everybody be mad. If you voted for Trump to end the wars, you should be mad. Just like when I voted for my whatever Democrat governors and all these people to do things that they never did, and I eventually got fed up and said, I'm out.
Yeah,
I'm not sending you money.
We've got to exodus the system. I mean, that's really what the headline is here. And that, but basically, since day one, the message we have wanted to convey is that this system only works for a few, and it really persecutes and destroys the lives of all people, you know, domestically and abroad. And it has been a terrorist organization that for a very, very long time that seems to only ever be gaining power.
I never use this button. I want to show this comment, though, because I think Nathan's entirely correct. We have no national identity. We basically do not have a country. No one owns anything. No one makes anything. And we are experiencing an occupying terrorist force that I believe that's what the owning class is. And it's so few people. I absolutely view America, the American workers, essentially, as like an occupied nation. We're occupied not by ourselves because we don't have control over it, but what do you call it when 80% of a population wants a thing and it doesn't? And our freaking opening theme, when 90 million want a thing and some shareholder says no. Like, if we don't have the ability to govern ourselves, what are we but an occupied people?
And it's like people don't understand this because they haven't been made to understand this. They haven't had access to this kind of information. It has been restricted on purpose so that you just keep powering through and punching through and thinking, equating your survival with will. That's not the same thing. That American hoorahism is not, the American West, we're all cowboys thing. That is not the same thing. We are just circling the drain as these people take more and more and more. And, just look at the state of entertainment or streaming or, just commercialism in general. Everything is garbage. Every piece of clothing you buy is worse than it was just even 10 years ago. Everything is trash. And you think, how could they get worse trash? And then they show you. So it's like, and that's not going to stop. And that's why we say yes, even though they are responsible for taking care of us, even though that they scam us by taking tax money that, they never actually use for anything fundamental, that and they're not providing us with good quality of life in any sort of a way, which is just a stroke of a pen would do that. That puts us in a situation. It's like, well, okay, what is the solution? The solution first is moving away from the duopoly and moving away from the broken system. The second part of that solution, as we from our homes and our amateur hour here sit here and say, is connecting with people. And at least the internet is good for that. So make your voice heard, say something, start a show, do something, connect with people, and use your skills. Try to find other people with complementary skills or some sort of way, and then start making mutual aid networks. And it sounds really big and hard to do, and it is. And a lot of us, especially post-COVID, are experiencing a lot of this disability kind of situations going on, and that will continue on. So things are hard. But that's even more why you've got to make your voice heard if you can't physically put yourself out there. So I think that's where we should probably leave you before we continue ranting, which we will. But just try to, if nothing else, see beyond. Don't feel so helpless. Don't sit here and say, what can we do? What can we do? Well, nothing by ourselves. But if we can get more and more people, regardless of whatever label you ascribe yourself to, red, blue, whatever, purple, neither, both, whatever. But if you know, whatever that is, put that shit aside and start thinking about like looking for like-minded people, and then maybe trying to organize things if that's in your skill set to do. So just open your eyes to it. Open your eyes, people. Open your eyes. Right? So yeah, so thanks for being with us. We appreciate you. Thanks for your comments. We like to talk to everybody when we get the chance, when we can be quiet long enough to do so. I will be back next week. You are Mr. International. I remember that now. So yes, he will be entertaining internationally, and I will be back with whatever horrible shit is going on. I'm guessing more of similar things to this, but we will see what kind of distractions Trump comes up with, because I'm guessing something crazy is around the corner since this shit isn't going away and going the way he wants it to.
Just gonna say it's the Democrats, and like some percentage of people will be like, yeah, totally, and then hopefully most people will be like, no. Come on.
No. And that's another thing too. Stop believing what you're told. When you're overwhelmed by the noise, try to tune out the nonsense and focus on
this Epstein shit is a pre-Trump thing, and it's not specific to him. And like I was saying, it's all from Pizzagate to QAnon to this. There's the common thing of the secret cabal of people doing weird stuff with kids in order to just maintain the permanent military apparatus.
Yeah.
That's what gives me hope that it's not just going to go away because Trump's like, no, don't worry about that. It's like, dude, we were worried about this before you. We actually only liked you because we thought you were going to do something.
Right. Yeah. Not we, by the way. Don't at him about this. But
if you're a Trump voter that isn't just voting for a specific celebrity, you should be very upset.
The first time for sure. I mean, the first time people were just like, I like money. He does money. The second time, you knew what you were getting. So that's the whole point on that. Not that you had some difference of you had horrible person versus horrible person, but the point is the same. Anybody who voted for him, you didn't have to vote at all. I didn't vote in the presidential part of the election. You didn't have to. You could have used it as an act of protest. So keep that kind of shit in mind too. Just listen to people who make sense to you. Connect with those people, talk to those people, reach out to those people. And if they're dicks to you, don't talk to them. Talk to somebody else. There's plenty of people out there who are just looking for more connections and more people to agree with them and to like their comments and to like their, support their little business or something like that. Like if you were going to go, buy somebody a gift, but you see somebody online and you're like, oh shit, this is exactly what I'm looking for. And it's a tiny little business who could definitely use my help, at least to share or something like that. Go for it. Help people out. Buy Jared's music, buy my books, do these kinds of things, my art. So like do these kinds of things and support each other rather than these big giant apparatuses that don't need your help. Look at each other now. Like let's change the narrative. And with that, I will see you next week. We wish Jared safe travels and much connections. And we hopefully we're gonna hold the line and everything will be all right. So meet me back here next week for our clubhouse meeting. Bye, guys.